Welcome to Unit 6, Lesson 10, Traversals Investigate. For our warm-up, we want to review how the traversal machine works. And as a quick review, this is kind of showing you a pattern. And as you pull the list up, it shows you that whatever you are calling, whatever index value you're calling within the square brackets, that's going to be the same value as I. And you would essentially be storing whatever is in that list at that index position into this element variable, okay? Now let's move on to our activity. If we were in the classroom, you would be completing this in groups of about 4. So we're not in the classroom, you're at home. So you're going to be student A, student B, student C, and student D. And we are going to go to level 1. All right. And I'm going to do this one with you, okay? Each student, or you focus on the different functions that are created here, and you want to be able to answer, how does the function work? So what list is used? How is it traversed using a for loop? And then ultimately be able to answer how the app works. So let's go ahead and start with 32 through 38, which we touched on in class for a moment. The average function. So it uses the list mile times. It created a local variable called total that starts at 0, and our counter variable I also starts at 0. So as long as I is less than the length of the mile times list, it's going to repeat this right here. So when it runs the for loop, total is going to be updated to include what was originally in total, and then it's going to add the time from the mile times list. It's going to add each one to the total. So this block right here is essentially summing up this entire list of mile times. And once that is done, we have average created up here. So average is a global variable. Once that is done, we're going to take the total and divide it by the length of the list, essentially averaging the mile times, and we're going to store that in average. So in the slow function, we've created a local variable called temp. All right, and each time we go through this list, we're going to check to see if the value at each index of the list is greater than what is stored in temp. If the value on the list is greater than what is stored in temp, we're going to replace what is stored in temp with whatever is at that index value on the list. This is similar to what we did in class with the maximum number thing. Okay, once we get done looking through every single index item on the list, then we're going to update the slowest variable, which is a global variable up at the top, with whatever is currently stored in temp. All right, now fast. We created another temp or vary variable that is storing the very first time in our list, located at index 0 of mile times. And so again, we're gonna look, this tells us that we are looking at each item on this list starting at position 0, index 0. So at index 0, if mile times of whatever index we're at, starting at 0, is less than the temp variable, then we're going to replace temp with whatever index value we're looking at. So mile times 0 is not less than mile times 0. So we're going to go back, and I is now 1. So if mile times 1 is less than mile times 0, then we're going to update the temp variable to be mile times 1. And if that's all that's in the list, then fastest is now mile times 1, or whatever value is stored in that variable, okay? I mean, whatever value is stored in that mile times 1 index position. Now, function numbered list display. We are creating a temporary variable, local variable called temp. It's going to be a string, okay? And it is empty right now. So as we go through each item on our list, okay, we are going to store in temp. I need to look at that differently, okay? In temp, we're going to put whatever was currently in temp, which at index 0 is nothing, okay? It's going to be nothing plus mile plus I plus 1. So if we're on index 0, it's going to be 1 plus a colon. And then we're going to include that time, and then we're going to add a line break. Now, what does that look like? Well, it would look like this: mile 1. And then it would have like the actual time. So like insert time here. Okay. And then it would be a line break. So what this does is, and we've seen this before, it takes whatever the index value is and it adds 1 to it. So that way we have the actual number in the list without starting at 0. Okay. Let me get rid of that. And then after we have gone through every single list, we're essentially just printing out the list, numbering it 1 to whatever. We're going to set the text of miles output to temp. So we are updating this list every single time we run through it. It's almost kind of like the append item, because we're taking the whole list and we're adding this part to the end. All right, then we go on to the next number, and we're taking the whole list that we have now and we're adding all of that to the end. So at the very end, we have a complete list, and we're just going to set that complete list. We're going to display it in the miles output text box, which is here. Okay. So how does the app work? We just talked about it. Let's run it. A new mile time. Let's put 7:54. Well, first of all, let's reset, okay, and run it the correct way. 7.54. Let's say 8.3. 7.8. And 5. No, sorry, that's not very realistic based on these numbers. Let's say 7.4. Okay, so we ran a total of 4 miles, and that's where we are right here. The index value is Let's show what I is. Oh, no. Okay. Well, we can't use temp, I don't think, because let's add one more. Okay, 7.6. Yeah. As long as it's a local variable, I don't think it's gonna let us watch it. Oh well. So it's running through this list that we have. And what we can do is we can, after here, we can say console.log temp. Okay? And we can actually copy that every single time. The thing is, though, if we did this, we wouldn't want just temp because they're all called temp. So we would want to say numbered list, something like that, and then let us add temp to that. And so here we would want not numbered list, but fast. And here we would want times. Here we would want average. So that way we know which temp we're looking at, okay? And it's going to update it. So let's add, oh no, because we changed the code, we gotta run the whole thing. Okay, 7.8. Psych. Okay, temp with quotes plus temp. Oh, it's not, that's not a thing. It's total. Okay. My bad. 7.6. All right. 8.4. Okay, mile 2. So it's doing it every single time so let's go up and look at this one on event. Okay. Update screen. A function, update screen. It's going to call average, call fast, call slow, call numbered list display. And it's going to set the text of the average output to average. All right, it's setting the text for all of those things to what those variables are. And right here, it is setting the input back to blank. So it's getting rid of whatever was entered. Now, when we click the new mile button, new time, global variable, gets the number out of this box and it adds it to the end of mile times. All right. And then total miles increases by 1 and they update the screen. So we have mile 1. Right here, let's also have console.log mile times. Okay, reset it. 7.6. All right, so this is our list, okay, at index 0. 7.9. Now it updated. 7.6 at 0, 7.9 at 1. The average is 7.6, although that shows a different value. Average 15.5 times 7.6, 7.9. Oh, because I didn't change the name. Numbered list is mile 1, 7.6, mile 2, 7.9. So that is what is happening in this level. And now that we have thoroughly examined that, okay, what you're going to need to do is create a function that adds together the total time of every element in the list, and then add a console.log statement for the result. Then you're going to call the function in the update screen function. So I'll give you a hint. All right, go down to the very bottom. All right, create a function called the total time of every element. Total time. Right there. Okay, go to update screen. Right here, we're going to call total time. All right. And you'll need to complete that. Unnecessary semicolon. All right. And then when you get done with that, you'll need to create a function that counts how many mile times are faster than 8. Now, we've done this before. If you remember, we counted how many evens and how many odds, right? So I would maybe go back to that. It's going to be something that's kind of like if so this is average, well, first of all, you're creating a function. So function, and let's call it faster than 8. Okay. And it says call it in the update. All right. So we're going to call it up here faster than 8. And what that's going to sound like is something like if I would make a temporary variable to store this. If get number from here, store it in temp time, is greater than 8, I would create another temporary variable, count, and I would say count plus plus. And of course, you have to use this for var. You have to put it in this loop. So how do these functions improve the functionality of this app for a user? Also at the bottom, you're going to say console.log, and you're going to put the variable name here for each one that you create. Okay. How did you traverse the list to get the data that you need? You're going to answer those questions. All right. And then 3. Actually, hold on. There's a video. No, there's not. But if you need to go back to Unit 5, Lesson 10 slides and watch the video, starting at 3:07, you will hear the speaker describing a section of code that processes a list for a specific purpose. That video may be helpful to you, and listening to that explanation may give you an idea of kind of what your function should sound like. So then you're going to go to level 3. Here we are. The goal of this investigation is to give you an opportunity to make sense of how traversals and the data sets can be used together to create a working app. So it's important to note that the algorithms in this app have some of the same qualities as the algorithm that you will need to develop for the create performance task. So, run the program, watch the code run, and carefully read each part of the program. These comments are wonderful examples of what your comments should be looking like, okay? Then you want to answer these questions. All right, I am going to let you pause it here so that you can do this, okay? Now, I have printed these patterns that you can put in your journal. Filtering one list, this is what it looks like, okay? In block code, this is what it looks like in text. And filtering the list length, this is what it looks like in block. This is what it looks like in text. So, this is for the starting letter, filtering based on the starting letter. And then it also explains how it works, or how you can also make one. Create a variable and store it in a list. Create a blank list to store the filtered list. In a function, use a for loop to access each element in the original list. And remember, that is this, for, var, if, append. Okay? And that is for, var, if, append. You notice the pattern? All right, if that element meets a certain condition, append it to the filtered list. Now, this is a multiple list filter. So, in this example, we have 3 lists: student names, student grades, and student ages. And then we have 3 empty lists. These are the ones that we're going to fill if the index value on the list meets our requirements. So we went ahead and created those, and we are starting with a blank list. This is a little bit repetitive, okay? Oh no, this is the declaration. All right, and this is making sure that it's blank when you start the function. So then we say, as long as the index value is less than the length of the list, we're going to increase I by 1. And if the student grade list at 0 is 11, then we're going to add them to the list, add their information to these new lists. So essentially, we're searching through an entire list of students to see if the student, to make a new list for students in the 11th grade. Okay. So I have that one and the traversal pattern for list reduce, average, finding the average and finding the smallest. So you can put those in your journal. Then you're going to complete the check for understanding. And whenever you return to class, we will practice traversals and work on the make lesson, which will be lesson 12. So make note of any questions you have so that we can answer those.